Welcome back to Shocktober. Today we are doing Oh My God, You Guys, Meat is Totally Gross, the movie. I'm Jacob, the writer, not of this film, but of other films, actor and YouTuber.
And I'm Gemma, and I'm a writer and director.
And now this is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is the full uncut version. So if you wish to sync it up with your own copy, be sure you have the right cut. And you can do that in... Well, not check you have the right cut, but you can sync it with us in 3, 2, 1, play. Now we're just going to turn the volume up slightly. Excuse me.
Bless you. Bless you.
Good start to the commentary. 2 loud sneezes. So make sure that you are indeed properly synced up if you are going to be playing your own copy.
The film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths. In particular, Sally Hardesty and her invalid brother Franklin.
Alright, there we are. So, interesting they go straight with like a voiceover here.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of put it out like it's real.
Yeah, it sounds like the opening to Law and Order. Just like, these are their stories. Bum, bum. Interestingly enough, the actor John Larroquette, he's most famous for being the main antagonist in Richie Rich, and he had a show at some point called the John Larroquette Show. Well, he was the one that did the voiceover there, and his payment for his work was a marijuana joint.
Fantastic. That's so fucking 70s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pay somebody with a joint. Man. I love the introduction to this film, like the black, and then you get the sort of horrifying noise that happens every time they reveal a part of the corpse. Mm-hmm. It's very artistic. Now, the film, of course, is famous for having a sort of realistic, grimy look to it, but yet there is a sort of surrealism at play as well.
It is.
Which really works in the film's favour.
Now, the opening kind of reminds me of the opening for the movie Seven, which I think they're probably taking a lot of inspiration from the opening here.
Yeah.
Including the credit sequence. Well,
Topo is a very accomplished filmmaker, so he's able to kind of blend the sort of realism but with high production values and the slight little surrealist moments and things. Mm-hmm. Might I say accomplished, this was only his second feature film. He'd probably done a lot of shorts and things. This was only his second feature-length movie.
Yeah.
But I expect he cut his teeth on making short films, as directors often do.
Yeah, he did quite a lot of short films during the 1960s.
This opening, again, very interesting. The sort of... the way they tell the story visually, and they've got just sort of like the radio. They tell it partly visually, of course you have got the radio. Mm-hmm. And the zoom is nice as well. It's the zoom is a technique that nobody really uses anymore, particularly low budget filmmakers, as they tend to use DSLR or Blackmagic or whatever, which doesn't really, cater for people who want to do zooms. But people using like Super 16 or even old tapes, it's a great technique. It's considered kind of cheesy because a lot of people don't know how to do it right. Can you close the window?
Yeah, of course.
This image here, we do. Yeah, we were supposed to say we live in the town, which is nice to live in the town. Obviously, it's convenient, but you get the cars. This image, by the way, is like a bacon painting. Not a painting made of bacon, or a painting of some bacon. I mean a Francis Bacon painting. Or like if you put a lot more skeletons in and maybe some fire, it's like something Bosch would paint. But I'm just gonna move because I'm in a goddamn leather sofa and I've never owned one before, and I never realised how noisy they were.
Don't worry, guys. It's not made out of people. It's just leather.
Leather face.
Leather sofa.
I love this image of like the combination of image and sound rather. You got the sort of really grotesque. By the way, Gunnar Hansen really low down the food chain, as it were, of actors. Even though he plays the antagonist of the film, he plays Leatherface, who's on the VHS box and things. Mm. And by the way, the VHS box, ridiculous. It's a picture of Leatherface swinging the chainsaw with the tagline, "It happened." No, it didn't. Like, don't try to act like this was a real event that took place. Mm-hmm. This is based on like an incident that took place with some nuns or some shit, and mostly the horrors of Ed Gein and the shit he got up to.
Yeah.
The stuff they couldn't put in Psycho.
Yeah, pretty much. No, the soundtrack, it contains no sounds from musical instruments.
Yeah.
It said the use sounds of animals would hear inside a slaughterhouse.
Just vegan propaganda, isn't it, this movie?
Yeah, pretty much.
I love the images here. I don't know how it was achieved, but it kind of looks like something you'd do in post-production, like the way you'd expose the film a bit strangely. And it reminds me of like old made-for-TV, like BBC sci-fi and things like that, and it looks really cool.
It does.
But sometimes the simplest kind of techniques are the most effective. Dead armadillo, never seen one, certainly not living one, because I've never been to a part of the world that has them. I'm not very well travelled.
I've seen a couple being I've been to Florida and I've been to Texas.
Is Texas like it's presented in this film?
Yes.
Simple as that. Yeah, it's really, really hot and everyone's mad.
Yeah, that is exactly right. The really, really unsettling part was when I first watched this film only a couple of months ago. Is that that took place south of San Antonio, which is where I stayed, and where I stayed for a few days because my parents live in Houston. So we drove between Houston and San Antonio, and this is where, and it's between that bit.
Lovely,
is where it's
smooth shot.
It's so pretty. So yeah, it was like really found this really weird small town that we ended up getting trapped in because the bridge was blocked and we had to find our way around, and we thought we're just gonna get killed by hillbillies, aren't we? That's basically what we thought.
See, like you couldn't find your way around the place. Look at that, it's a nice framing. This film has a reputation for looking really grimy, and yet there was a lot of really good framing and things in the film. But yeah, you couldn't find your way out. That happened to you in Scotland, though. You remember you phoning me up and saying that you were stuck on a road. You didn't know if you were going to be able to get home.
Yeah, that was I got trapped in Glasgow because all the roads were closed, and there was no way of me getting back on because the motorway was closed, and it was a horrific evening.
Oh, well, of course it was. You were in Scotland, and most notably Glasgow.
Very true. I was in the Gorbals.
My knowledge of Glasgow comes from my incredibly brief walk through there, where honestly it seemed quite nice, and 90% of Frankie Boyle's stand-up.
Also, we also
that new film that's come out with lots of shooting in it. Something Glasgow on a Friday night. Why do people find me funny? Please don't dislike if you like Frankie Boyle. I like him on panel shows. I just don't care for his stand-up.
Stand-up's terrible. The best thing about it was walking past that sign that said Nelson Mandela Place.
Yeah, because I just wanted to tip out a 40, but of beans. People who don't watch Bad Creepers are going to be really confused.
I know.
Just tip out a 40 of beans. Just for my homie Nelson. In celebration of the Mandela effect. Yeah. The extras are weird in this movie, aren't they? Really interesting, sort of like strange behaviour. Or the sort of stare and the accents and everything. Yeah. They all creep me out, especially the guy who just lays on the ground giggling, coming up soon.
He is.
I know you haven't seen the Blair Witch Project, which we absolutely have to watch and then do next year once you've already seen it. This guy kind of looks like that actor whose name escapes me. The guy lying on the floor. Looks like that actor whose name escapes me, who's in The Fisher King and Jurassic Park 3.
Michael Jeter.
Yeah, he's a great character actor. But I loved him as the insane homeless drag queen in The Fisher King, which, by the way, if you guys haven't seen, need to watch. It's a fucking masterpiece.
He was also in The Green Mile.
Yeah, of course he was in The Green Mile. He was the one with the mouse, wasn't he?
Mr.
Jingles. Yeah.
Jamie's died.
Really, great character actor. But that's obviously not him. But that's who he reminds me of.
Yeah.
Now, we've tried watching this a couple of times already, so we're sort of quiet anticipation of the disc breaking.
Yes.
Because we bought this from CEX, which of course is a second-hand place. We had to really clean the disc, but it has got a couple of scratches on it.
The actor that plays Franklin really reminds me of just a dark-haired Chris Farley.
Yeah. I can see that. His obsession... That's a gross image, isn't it?
Horrible.
His obsession with the slaughterhouse reminds me of every conversation with a vegan I've ever had in my life.
God.
I'm just okay, shut up. Yeah, I get it. It's horrible. The thing is, I don't understand the mission. They're religious people. The mission to convert everyone who doesn't think like you. If you don't like meat, don't eat it. I don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat since I was 10. But literally, there's probably people who are fans of the show who don't know that. Some of my friends Like Toby'd known me for about 5 years before he realised I didn't eat meat. Because I don't just go on and on and on about it. I'm talking about it now because I'm watching a film that's in many ways to do with the meat industry. But it does really annoy me when people do that. I saw this ridiculous vegan propaganda on Facebook where it was like this absolute kind of, you know how like cucks have like co-opted the beard and it's no longer manly, like the long beard.
Yeah.
Sort of like the lumberjack shirt and the long beard without actually cutting down a tree in their life. He was one of those kind of guys, like holding like a really battered sheep that was like all falling apart and it was really bloody. It's like, here's the rest of your wool coat. I'm like, no, they just shear them and it's perfectly harmless and perfectly good for them.
I know, it's like
great shot, by the way.
It is. You know those people. All I see when I see those kind of people is I cut down trees. I wear high heels, suspenders, and umbrella.
They do chat shit though. I mean, like Peter, like as in PETA. I'm sure I read somewhere that they like paid a bunch of workers at like KFC or some shit to mistreat the chickens just so they could film it. I'm like, that's despicable. I like animals, but I'm going to make a snuff movie with animals really being tortured. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
This guy creeps me the fuck out, right? In the remake, this scene has no potency to it. It's shit. They pick up, like... I know you're saying to me earlier you saw the remake a long time ago, but don't remember it very well. In this sequence in the remake, they pick up, like, a girl who's sort of scared and then just shoots herself in the mouth. And it just doesn't have any of the same potency to it.
Weird. This guy reminds me a lot of James Franco. Like,
yeah. I really can't wait to see James Franco play Tommy Wiseau.
That's going to be amazing, and we're going to go see that at the cinema.
Absolutely. You've got a message from everybody.
Okay.
So you watched this for the first time really recently, didn't you?
I did, yes.
I know you mentioned on the Evil Dead commentary that you liked the film. What was your initial reaction to seeing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre after all these years? Did it live up to your expectations?
It did, I must admit, because, well, a lot of the time when people were saying, oh, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you haven't seen that, I had either the reaction of, oh, it's really good, you should watch it, or, no, it's not as good as everyone says it is.
So you had sort of quite middle of the road, like muted expectations.
Yeah, but it did exceed my expectations. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, it's very disturbing.
Oh, it is, yeah. But not in a way that makes you want to turn it off. You have to keep looking.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, the film, speaking of disturbing, the film was quite controversial when it came out, obviously. I've got some quotes here. I'm just going to... from British tabloids. Now, you guys know, even if you're not British, you're probably not British tabloids are like, how alarmist they are. I've got a quote here from the Daily Mail. If ever a film should be banned, this is it. Now, of course, they're not calling for the film to be banned. They're just saying if we're operating in a space where films get banned, you should ban this. But here's one from the News of the World. This is about the sickest carnival of slaughter ever seen. Why did the Greater London Council let this nightmare through?
Seriously.
It was a hard film to censor as well, so while there are different cuts of the movie, it was difficult to get anything other than an X rating because I think the film censor's office said something along the lines of the problem with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is in its tone. If you try to cut anything from the film, it makes no difference. Something like that. Obviously, I don't have the quote in front of me, the quotation rather in front of me, but if you look it up, I'm sure you'll be able to find something. But that was the general sort of point of the thing, was like, we can't really change the film to get it past anything below an X because it's just so horrible. Like, the whole film is dripping with this disgusting feeling.
The thing is, though...
But that's a testament to how good it is, I think.
The thing is, though, as well, it's disturbing in the sense that it makes you uncomfortable, but it doesn't make you uncomfortable that you never want to watch it ever again. Whereas that sort of feeling stays with me regarding the film The Machinist, but I can a film that I probably will never watch again. But again, as much as like Eraserhead makes me uncomfortable, I can sit and watch that all the time. And the same with this. Like, I probably could.
Now, to people joining us on YouTube, I put the question to you: what is a film? Preferably a good film as well. I'd be interested if they're good movies. They don't have to be, But what is a film you'll never watch again that was really disturbing? Preferably films that were well made. Honestly, I've seen Irreversible many times because I've had to study it, and then when I was teaching, my students studied it as well. But I would never watch it out of choice.
Yeah, I've only seen it Irreversible once, and that's enough for me.
How many times have you seen Cannibal Holocaust?
Once.
I've seen it a couple of times because I was doing a thing on Video Nasties, so I sort of tried to. I watched it independently in my teens, then I tried to watch it again, and then Toby and I were sort of going through a thing of like trying to show each other the worst, most shocking films we could find, and I showed him Cannibal Holocaust. And we did a DVD swap as well. He gave me Human Centipede 2, which I will never watch again. I tell you what, I'll never watch. No, but it's not a good film. But a film that really shocked me and I wouldn't watch again is Necromantic.
Oh, never ever again. No, there's a sequel to that.
I know, which I will never watch.
No.
To be honest, I would have given him the $2 in this scenario.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, mate, yeah, it's a great picture. Here's your $2. Please don't start a fire.
Mm-hmm.
There's this, it's like they're all hanging out together, a bunch of young people against the tinfoil out. You'd think like, oh, he's got some Mandy in there, Now the party's starting. No, he's going to start a fire.
Yep.
But yeah, this whole scene is really disturbing and freaky.
It
the
is.
remake just doesn't hold a candle to it.
I do apologise if you keep hearing my phone vibrating. Yeah, apparently the director claims to have got the idea for the film while standing in the hardware section of a crowded store, and while thinking of a way to get out through the scope of the crowd, he spotted the chainsaws.
See, I've heard a lot of different stories about how he got his inspiration. Mm-hmm. And I think there's no one event. There are little things that contributed to the film.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly, when he was a student, or it may have been a story he heard from a friend, but the way I know the story is that when he was a student, there was, the sort of med school and biological, medical science people there. And he was at a party, and somebody wore the face of one of the cadavers to the party.
Oh.
And he said it was the scariest thing he'd ever seen.
That is horrific.
It was like a Halloween party, and someone had cut the face off one of the cadavers and worn it as a mask.
That is horrific. That is not something a sane person would do.
Yeah, that's somebody I don't think should be allowed to practice medicine.
No. About that sort of thing you were saying about how this film had an X rating.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly one of the least bloodiest movies of all time.
Yeah, to ever get an X rating. Obviously not one of the least bloody films of all time. I'm sure it's got a lot less violence in it than, say, Peter Pan or Beauty and the Beast. But
least bloodiest horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
But apparently it was because Toby Hooper intended to make the movie for a PG rating by keeping the violence moderate, the language mild, and having most of the horror implied. Off screen and shown in great detail.
It's really funny he wanted a PG rating for this. I'm sitting there looking at the DVD. Now, obviously it's a DVD film, though that probably came out in the 2000s sometime, the DVD copy, and it's still got a huge fucking 18 sticker on it.
Yeah, and I was like, the plan backfired obviously because of the thing about the tone of the film and everything, and even
how good the cinematography is in this.
It's fantastic, and so you just gave up and released it as an X.
Because like they were saying, there's nothing you can do to
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. I tell you what will always get you that X rating or NC-17 as it is now is, aside from sex, if you're talking about violence, it's imitatable violence.
Mm-hmm.
You can kill someone with a power tool, but you take something fantasy. You and I were watching Stardust the other day with Logan, weren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Stardust is actually an incredibly violent film for a PG.
It is,
but it's non-imitatable. It's all fantasy.
Yeah, there's a bit where a witch magics another witch's head off, and she runs around with
somebody gets blown up. Somebody gets savaged by dogs at one point. Somebody gets drowned, and then their body is sort of reanimated with magic to fight.
Mm-hmm.
All very grim stuff for a PG, but of course they the justification is always, yeah, but no kid's going to be able to copy this.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with Jaws, which is a film I must always bring up in every single episode of Shocktober. I must always bring up Jaws because it is a masterpiece and it's my third favourite movie.
Seventh.
Your seventh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The reason Jaws was passed at a PG at the time, and the VHS is still a PG, though the DVD and Blu-ray are ranked 12 here in the UK, which means no person under 12 can watch without an adult.
Mm-hmm.
In the home it's different, obviously, but they won't sell it to a 12-year-old without an adult.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously at the cinema you have to take an adult with you if you're 12 or if you're under 12. So it's like a PG-13, basically a similar sort of thing. But it was passed at PG at the time rather than I guess it would be like a double A, I think it was called over here, and what would sort of be an R rating in the States.
Yeah.
Because the justification that Spielberg and Zanuck and that team used was you can't copy any of the violence.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't care about scaring kids to death. They were just like, yeah, a kid can't swim up under a boat and tip it over and then eat someone alive.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like because they're not sharks.
Yeah. And it's a great justification to get away with anything, you know?
Mm-hmm. One thing I love about this is apparently that the soundtrack contains no sounds from musical instruments.
Didn't you say that earlier?
No, I said it in the last one we did.
Oh yeah, we tried recording this earlier and the DVD fucking crashed.
Yeah, and it was instead they used sounds an animal would hear inside a slaughterhouse.
I swear you said that on that like fucking Doctor Who looking bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell what we said earlier and what we're saying in this version, isn't it?
I mean, if I'd said
we had the same problem with the Evil Dead commentary. Sometimes you have technical difficulties, you know, we're only human.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just doing this from our living room, so...
Yeah.
Is that all the wine gone, by the way?
Yeah, but there's gin. And there's also vodka as well.
I'm not drinking vodka, I've got work in the morning.
I know, just saying.
So I sell Rivetors and Rivetor accessories, Gemma, and in order to do that, I need to have my wits about me.
Hey, I'm working tomorrow morning as well.
Oh God.
I've also got...
You're working earlier than me, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm working at bloody 7.
Fail.
Yeah, but I also...
Look at those flares, that is unacceptable. I don't care. I don't care that it was the 70s. There's no excuse to ever have that kind of thing on your body.
I know.
And those shoes.
Unless you're Shaggy. You're getting a phone call, by the way.
Oh God, I'm getting a phone call. Excuse me.
I will continue
If you've got to entertain the audience for now, I'll take this phone call in the hallway.
That is fine. No problem at all.
Hello?
Again, I'm not as well versed in this film as Jacob is, so this is only my second viewing of the film. But I'll just give you some nice trivia. How about this? Well, this is very much like when I was in Texas. I was there in July, actually. Very much the way it looked to me. Just this very, very barren between the kind of the two cities that I was between Houston and San Antonio, and it was very scary when you see that things like when you see those sort of things when it's something you're not used to. I'm just gonna go. That the film's original budget was $60,000, but during the editing process, the filmmakers amassed an additional $80,000 in costs, requiring that they sell off portions of their ownership in the film's royalties. So all in all, it was about $300,000, which it was pretty good. I mean, it made it all back. I mean, it made over $30 million at the box office. So, I mean, that is a proper money making machine. So no wonder that Steven Spielberg was wanting to work with them during the making of Poltergeist. And I really like Poltergeist. And I've seen a lot of Tobe Hooper films though. It's mostly I've seen Salem's Lot, the TV movie with David Soul and James Mason, and I've seen Poltergeist in this film. I also but I'm interested to see this movie Eggshells, which is the one before this film, which is an experimental film. I'm just gonna bore you with trivia, by the way. This is really nice, isn't it? It feels like that they're being watched by something. It's very nice view. it is really well shot. I do really enjoy this. Yeah, there's a lot of urban legends surrounding this film, saying that the real Texas Chainsaw Massacre took place near Poth, which is a small town about 36 miles southeast of San Antonio. But this is very false. The film was fictional and based loosely on the life of Wisconsin serial killer Ed Gein, which is where they got the inspiration for Psycho, which came out 14 years prior. And that gas station that the kids stop in is now being renovated and turned into a Texas Chainsaw Massacre horror campground, and it was sold by the family of the original owners just last year. The new owner is in the process of finding and purchasing.
Right, sorry about that. I'm just going to use the bathroom and then I shall return to the commentary.
No problem. Everything all right?
Yes. Anybody who gives a shit. My mum was admitted to hospital, obviously not seriously, she didn't go in an ambulance or anything, and I didn't find out until she was already there, which is why I'm recording and not with my mum at the hospital. She's having a few headaches. It was because she banged her head in her new bedroom. It's called whiplash, that's all.
Alright, that's okay.
I went to the toilet. That's a fucking... I'm glad I came back for that image. That's a really surreal image, the sort of dust mites in the corner and the sound, the sort of rattling sound. Very creepy.
It is very creepy.
It's one of my favourite moments in the film, and it's so... quiet and subtle. It's one of the best parts of the film.
Okay. Well, as I was saying about that, once I get it back up on my phone again, is that that they're trying to purchase it to make it original at the same time to period pieces for the resort. And the owner team is Roy Rose and the first Jason Ari Lemon. They're putting in a restaurant, music venue, and overnight cabins. Imagine going to stay there. I love horror. And I would love to go to places. God, I sounded really Scottish there. I love horror, and places like that interest me. Like, I would love to visit the hotel that inspired, the hotel where The Shining was shot, and the kind of the inspiration for the Overlook Hotel. I guess but I would never want to stay anywhere near there.
What are you on about?
Basically, at where the gas station the kids stop at is being renovated and turned into a Texas Chainsaw Massacre horror campground. With a restaurant, music venue, and overnight cabins. And I'm just like, as much as I love horror, I'm never wanting to stay there.
That's fucking weird. It's like staying at the Overlook.
I was actually saying there, it's like, I'd much rather stay at the Overlook Hotel than be anywhere near that place.
I know what you mean, because there's no such thing as ghosts, but
there is such thing as a serial killer. Yeah, the film was rejected by the British film censors in 1975, but it did get a limited cinema release in London.
Yeah, which is where that News of the World article would have come from. And
it was banned again in 1977 when the censors' attempts to cut it were unsuccessful. And then it was banned again in 1984 because
that must have been where that
video
that
nasties
thing came from I was talking about.
Yeah.
That not a quotation, but the sort of sentiment came from.
And it's like in 1999, after the censors finally changed their policy, they took the plunge and passed it uncut for the cinema in vinegar after 25 years since they first banned it. And the film was shot in chronological order.
That's cool. We've done that's happened a couple of times, hasn't it? On this,
must be quite common for horror.
Yeah, because it's really considered a strange thing to do, is shoot a film in sequence.
But we've watched quite a few. I think 28 Days Later was one that was shot in sequence and everything like that.
Yeah, I can't recall which ones were, but I remember that's come up a couple of times in the podcast now. It's films that were shot in sequence. Franklin's an interesting chap, isn't he? Because he's kind of whiny, but you're sort of with him because he's just like, poor bastard's in a wheelchair.
Sounds like a rattlesnake, doesn't it?
The film has a real fixation on sort of decay, doesn't it? And and bones and remains and things like that.
Yeah.
And rot. I don't know if I ever finished making my point about the Blair Witch Project earlier, which was just that, similar to this, the extras in the film have the same sort of quality of something's not quite right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great moment. It's really well done considering she's like a little child. So a mother with her child's talking, and then she gets onto a point about these terrible things that happened, and the kid keeps saying no and trying to cover her mouth.
Yeah.
Which is really disturbing. It's one of the scariest parts of the movie before anything else scary has happened. I'm really looking forward to watching that with you, actually. I really hope you like it.
I'm sure I will. I mean, you've never steered me wrong, so...
I think you and I show each other a lot of movies. It's kind of like what we do. You know, we sit and watch... Obviously, we sit and watch movies and do commentaries on them. We show each other a lot of films.
Yeah, I mean, we've got very similar tastes, but there has been films that we both like that we've not seen, and...
I think so far the only film we've disagreed on has been Repo the Genetic Opera. And I didn't dislike the movie, I just thought it was a bit meh and a bit too edgy for me. Like, it felt like something... felt very teenage.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't hate it. But that's been the only film we've really disagreed on. That's a creepy vision. They sort of like do this same thing in The Hills of Eyes. Sort of like the sort of cups and things that are floating around.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. The first time I saw this film, I didn't find it very scary, and on repeat viewings, it seems to get scarier every time I watch it.
Yeah, just... I'm actually feeling more tense now watching it than I did when I first watched it on my own. To be fair, it's because I didn't know what to expect too much. Like, I had the kind of... I had those, like, people said like, you know, it's either really good or it was really mediocre.
Excuse me. But yeah, just enjoying the film for a moment there. As always happens on these videos, audio recordings rather, we find ourselves just simply enjoying the film.
Apparently the distributors of the film, Bryanston Pictures, were allegedly discovered to have mafia connections.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
It doesn't shock me at all. You know, like a lot of these kind of films, it just like adds something to the film, doesn't it? Makes it feel a bit more dodgy.
Yeah.
One of my favourite things about any of these kind of movies is from Cannibal Holocaust, where the director of the film, what was his name? Deodato. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ruggero Deodato. He's Italian. I don't speak Italian, so but he was forced to because he wanted to sort of market the film because it's a found footage film, at least in part. That's a great shot, isn't it?
Yeah, a similar shot to The Evil Dead.
Yeah, I think Evil Dead took a lot of inspiration from this film, but added sort of a supernatural twist on it.
Yeah.
But in Cannibal Holocaust, he wanted to sort of market it like it was real, you know, like it had all really happened. And so he had the actors sign like a clause in their contract that they wouldn't do any press appearances or anything like that to promote the film. So they could sell the idea that they were dead. Unfortunately, it was so effective that they had to show up in court to prove that they hadn't been murdered by the director.
Wow.
Human tooth, they're very gross. So that was something, not the human tooth moment, which I have done things with human teeth in my films, but in Abyssus, which is a film I talk about a lot on these things because it's really the only horror film I've ever made. There's a line where the main character, who's a horror director, there's a student interviewing him and he says, "Is it true that you had to?" Because he was prosecuted for making a really obscene film, and I was like, "Is it true you had to bring the actors in to prove you didn't murder them?" And he goes, "No, I've heard that rumor before, but it's absolute horseshit." Well, that's actually obviously taken from what really happened to Deodato with Cannibal Holocaust. I love stories like that, and again, like the mafia thing with this movie, it just makes the film seem more interesting.
It does.
I had a little workshop. There's a really nice reference to this in The Lost Boys.
Yes.
The grandfather's workshop. It's very much like that. In fact, I even think they mention this film in that scene, don't they?
It's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I fucking love The Lost Boys. Can we do The Lost Boys for Shocktober 2017?
Yes.
By the way, just 0 to 100 real quick. And the twitching.
Saying,
This is the moment where you realise, oh god, I'm watching one of the scariest films ever made, aren't I?
Yeah.
I'd forgotten.
Oh.
You're like, oh. This is one of the earliest slashers, isn't it, this film? Maybe the first. I mean, this... And when it's not the first...
Would Tom be a slasher?
Well, the thing is, the point I was going to make is that it's a masked killer.
Yeah.
A killer who doesn't speak, who seems almost immortal, chasing teenagers.
Just this silly piece of trivia here. Apparently, one of the crew members accidentally injected herself in the leg with formaldehyde while preparing one of the props for the film.
Lol.
I mean, what would that? I mean, to be honest, I'm just trying to think. What the hell would that do to your leg?
It probably wouldn't be very good for you, would it?
No, it would not.
But considering that's where the piece of trivia ends, I imagine she was fine.
Yeah.
But freak you out though, wouldn't it? But
there's been, you know how there's a lot of people, a lot of inspiration from Ed Gein and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think to me, it's more. I would think more Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer was
the cannibalism thing. Yeah.
And the making things out of things.
Well, didn't Ed Gein do that kind of stuff though?
Yeah, but he only killed 2 people.
Really?
He
just dug up corpses and sort of desecrated them, didn't he?
Yeah, he was not really a proper serial killer. He only killed 2 people, and that's when I say only. He still killed 2 people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, still obviously a monster.
Yeah.
But this is great, isn't it? This is where because we've already had the first brutal murder and everything, and we know what we're in for now, and the film just goes, and then we start getting the more sort of shaky camera and everything. And the film just goes, yeah, fuck you. You're not going to sleep. You're going to be thinking about this all night.
Pretty much.
This bench thing here really freaks me out. Again, we paid homage to this in Abyssus with the director's chair that appears at the end of the film. It's a direct homage to this bench. We have a scene. I don't know if anyone's seen my film Abyssus. It's not got many views on YouTube. But it was never finished, you see. We had to cut some crucial scenes and release it as was because of time and things and people's schedules. But the scene where the director sort of enters his own kind of reality, and a director's chair covered in human bones appears. And it's directly influenced by this.
Nice. Apparently Gunnar Hansen had to wear 3-inch heels during this to appear taller than the rest of the cast, because it to seem a bit more scary, a bit more threatening.
Oh, why did she didn't hire somebody taller? Did Gunnar Hansen ever play Leatherface again, or was this the only time? Because I know he's been played by a couple of actors.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna have a wee look. Do you know that?
The same guy who's played Jason a bunch of times.
Yeah. Apparently Gunnar Hansen... Oh, he died last year. I forgot about that.
Oh, I remember now. Yeah, it was all over social media.
He played him in Texas Chainsaw 3D that came out a couple of years back.
That was fucking horrible. That's a classic image, isn't it? What's so scary about Leatherface is that he's sort of lumbering and fat and ungraceful, but he always catches them, He's always gonna get you. You can't escape him. She runs and he barely breaks into a jog and still catches her because he's just so big and imposing and lumbering.
Oh, that's just her being on that.
Yeah, and they don't see a lot of blood, do you? Just a little spattering here and there.
Yeah. No, Gunnar Hansen only played him in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and then the one that came out in 2013. He was asked to reprise his role in the one that came out in 2003.
Yeah.
But declined, claiming that he was insulted by the idea of it being remade.
I mean, the remake's not great. It's got some things about it that work. It's got that guy in it who never amounted to anything from the first 2 episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, which one is that? Was that the first episode? Yeah.
Yeah, Jesse.
Jesse, yeah. Eric Balfour.
Eric Balfour, yeah. He was also in that art house porno movie called Lay With Me or Lie With Me or something like that.
Yeah, and I have seen. Sorry, I have seen the remake. It's just
he's in that, and his face was too modern, and it really annoyed me because he didn't look like he belonged in the 70s. And the fashion in that film was like a modern take on the 70s.
Do you know what film I saw?
But it did have Arlie Emery in it as a corrupt sheriff who was really a corrupt and mad sheriff, and he was really good in the film.
Oh yeah, I remember him. He was also in that movie Skyline, which is terrible.
Oh god, yeah, with Turk from Scrubs.
Yeah.
What a film! And the power of true love stops the brain-eating aliens. Like, fucking ridiculous movie.
I know, it's horrible. I hated that movie so much. I went to the cinema to see that.
I was like, is it possible to, like, remove the part of my brain that regulates memories and wash it in bleach and stick it back in?
Like, I might lose, like, my education and, like, my first love and things, but, you know, I'll also lose the movie Skyline.
It is like with me.
Yeah. I always wonder when these art house directors make films about sex with like the actors copping off with each other for real. I think, are they really just? Do you think they really care about art, or are they living out some adolescent like teenage fantasy about making a porno? But they're famous directors now, so they can't.
Still like Lars von Trier.
Yeah, like fucking fuck Lars von Trier, man. Not because he puts sex in his movies. Like I don't care about that. Because his films are fucking terrible.
They are, and everyone loves them. And it's horrible.
I don't understand people like Lars von Trier so much. I just hate his films. They're just awful.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
I've
always really
some...
amateurish looking, like way more than this. Like this film gets like recognised as having a really gritty look to it. Like his films always look like they're shot on fucking tapes to me.
Well, the thing, like I think I've seen Nymphomaniac and I've seen Melancholia.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't finish Melancholia.
Yeah,
20 minutes in. I got 20 minutes into Nymphomaniac. I got 20 minutes into Dogville. I don't think I've ever finished a Lars von Trier film, actually. I got 5 minutes into The Idiots.
Mm.
You don't think that guy tried to follow us, do you? I mean, there's no way that he could follow us.
Apparently, Gunnar Hansen and the guy that plays Franklin did not get on during the making of this film.
No.
But the only reason that is because Gunnar Hansen didn't realise that he was a method actor and that he stayed in character outside of the film, like you know, during the filming. And once he found that out, they became very good friends, and they were friends up until Gunnar Hansen's death in 2015. I mean, there's a way to do method acting sometimes, and then there's Jared Leto's way to do method acting.
There's Jared Leto's way to do anything like exist, which just makes me want to drown him in a bucket of boiling piss.
Yeah.
Again, I hate slagging off other actors and things, particularly ones who are more successful, because it makes me sound jealous. Generally, I as an actor myself, I really respect the profession of acting and things, and I always try to be respectful of people, even if I think they've given bad performances, because I know a lot of the factors that can lead to a bad performance that are out of your control as an actor. But I don't get it with Jared Leto. I saw him perform live his music, which was dreadful, and I thought he was the most arrogant person I'd ever seen. And like, he just had this like ego just pouring out of him, you know.
He is very egotistical. I think what it is about the fashion in the 70s is that it's very, you either like it or you don't. It's very love-hate, isn't it? It's not something that you can either say, oh, I like some aspects of it, or not all of it. It's either, no, you either absolutely love 70s fashion or you despise it with all your might. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. So I'm just replying to a comment here. Ever the professional me, just sitting on social media while I'm supposed to be working.
Come on out. Come on.
I'll turn off my mobile data. I'm really hungry, by the way.
We haven't eaten.
Like I was saying, when do you want to have food? And you're like, oh, we'll do it after Texas Chainsaw.
But we didn't realise we probably would have finished Texas Chainsaw if we hadn't.
Not by now, because it was two 15-minute things where it broke both times. This is one of the most hideous images in the film, by the way. When she snaps out of it and tries to get out of the freezer.
Ugh. Yeah, when it was first released, the film was so horrifying. People actually walked out on sneak previews.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and even in the boots that he was wearing, the lifts that he was wearing, that Gunnar Hansen could run faster than Marilyn Burns. So he had to do random things when chasing her through the woods. Like, you'll notice in one head-on shot, which we'll see coming up soon, that he started slicing up tree branches in the background.
Oh, there's a little zoom here on the teeth.
It's one thing that the film sort of, it's kind of subtle as well, it kind of touches on the fact that there's inbreeding going on in like the backways towns and
because you get that little thing in the teeth there. You realise it's quite monstrous, and that puts you to the mind of people who have been inbred.
Mm-hmm. You sort of see that sort of thing in things like The House of a Thousand Corpses and.
By the way, I hate The House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
One, because they use a Slim Whitman song, and I fucking love Slim Whitman, and
really upset me. Because whenever I listen to the song I Remember You, which is actually one of my favourite Slim Whitman songs,
it's amazing.
There's always people in the comment sections on YouTube going on and on about House of a Thousand Corpses and how Rob Zombie brought me here. I'm like, fuck Rob Zombie, man.
I hate when people comment on videos of like songs and stuff like that by going, meh, brought me here, and it's just like...
I've done that like once and I kind of regret it. I'm like, oh, that made me look obnoxious.
I absolutely despise
it. Was with the song Please Don't Go Now by Ars Nova. Because the rapper Soul used used that song as a sample in one of his songs, and it sounds really cool. Both songs I really like. So I was like, oh, Soul sent me in the comment section. I'm like, oh god, I look like a cunt now. I should have just left well alone. And now I've got a mouth. I've got like I've got like a bum full of somebody else's feces.
Well, I've done that once, not so much. It was like back when I had YouTube. About 2008 time, and it was something about the Genesis Land Confusion, and everyone was like, oh, the Disturbed version is so much better than this one, and I'm just like, fuck off, you guys, just stop talking about
I don't like that sort of music, really, like Disturbed and things like that. It's just not my cup of tea.
Okay,
I used to be so into it as a teenager, but it just doesn't do it for me like since I grew up.
So, I still like the Disturbed from time to time.
The Disturbed.
The Disturbed.
The most northern thing. I listen to the Disturbed sometimes.
The Knowing. No, I like Disturbed.
I listen to the Corn.
Well, I do like Disturbed. I don't listen to as much metal as I used to. Turn it down. Right.
I like that I'm like signalling to you so you can carry on talking with like hand gestures, and then you just say out loud what I'm doing.
Okay. It was because of the beeping, wasn't it? I was like, I don't listen to, again, I don't listen to as much metal as I did back when I was a teenager. Although I do from time to time, which you make fun of me for.
I don't know, like, to each his own. Like, I don't, like, beyond the sort of making jokes, point like the same as I do with the anime and things like that.
Yeah.
I always associate like metal and those kind of clothes and the hair and stuff like that with teenagers.
Yeah.
And it always blows my mind when I see people older than me like that.
Yeah, it does.
Because I don't just think like my taste changed. I always feel like I grew out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Did you not grow out of it?
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, if you've seen me, like, I mean, I was like, if you've seen me like maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, to be fair, I was about 19 3 or 4 years ago. 4 years ago I was 19. Yeah. I mean, I was like going to metal concerts still and all that sort of stuff. But I did grow out of it a lot quicker than my ex did.
It is tense, isn't it? It's traditional, sort of like through the woods, and there's somebody chasing you through the woods. You know, it's been done a million times, but it works. It really.
The thing that makes
nice.
it most tense as well is that one of the characters is an invalid.
Yeah.
And that you're having to push him along with you because, well, I mean, You don't want him to die.
Yeah, you can't leave him behind, but he can't take care of himself. It adds something, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of those horror movies that have kids in them. You know, somebody's trying to take the kid with them. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just got called.
I know. I just went. I'm just gonna go check. I'll be back in a minute, guys. I'm also gonna go to the bathroom after, so I'll be back in a minute.
Luckily, this part of the film is so kind of tense and intriguing and then kind of scary that if I'm not entertaining you, you can entertain yourselves by just enjoying the movie. It's like, gee whiz, I could have just put the DVD on without listening to these people. Nice jump scare there. Again, I've said this before on the show, I don't have a problem with jump scares. People hate them. I just think they're overused and misused. It's a combination of misusing and overusing in films today. But when you build up to it nicely and then boom, and then you reveal the killer or the monster or whatever, it can actually work really nicely. Alien has some really effective jump scares in it. Yeah, there it is, him chopping the tree branches. Sort of slow himself down. So I guess Gunnar Hansen was just a naturally fast runner because he does always seem to catch his prey, as it were. It's going to be scary because that's a real chainsaw as far as I know, as with the Evil Dead. It's going to be scary to be running with a chainsaw, especially in the dark. Like I'd be really freaked out to do that. I guess there's a difference between me and an actor who's successful. An actor who's successful is willing to take those kind of risks. I'd rather not run through the woods in the middle of the night brandishing a live chainsaw. Is live the word you use for an appliance that's switched on but runs on petrol? I don't know. I didn't even know. Don't even know my own language. I'm glad we're out of wine because I've not eaten. So I'm just like, starting to feel like my empty stomach. Nothing to like soak up the wine. We have to eat after this. I'm going to have pasta. That's what you want to hear about, right? Are you watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Get a bit of deja vu there. That's always an interesting thing that I hate when it happens. Happened there on that shot. Glad that's gone away. Felt as though I'd recorded this part of the film saying these exact things in this exact position before. Deja vu is horrible. Oh, this is so fucking creepy. This is again is very sort of famous sequence of the film. The corpses in the chairs. Of course, Psycho did something kind of similar with Mrs. Bates. Now, the kind of the way the house looks with these corpses in the chairs and the hanging up on the walls and everything was referenced in Shadow Man, not in the N64 version, which was heavily censored, but in the PC and Dreamcast version of the game. It's a big homage to that scene during one of the more disturbing sequences near the end of the game. And you are trailing a serial killer through an abandoned apartment building. You're tracking him down. That's a game I'd recommend people play. I do wonder about that stunt where she jumps through the glass. I wonder like how that was achieved. Because you couldn't do it for real, surely you'd just really injure yourself. But the film is so low budget, you wonder, well, did they do it for real? I mean, they've got a real chainsaw going.
I'm hoping the disc doesn't like crap out, because I can hear it from here that the PlayStation, we're using the PS3, the PlayStation is sort of struggling. It's making noises while it's playing the DVD. Gemma has returned to join us for more commentary.
Wow.
What have you brought with you?
I brought you some juice.
Juice. There's no gin in it, is there?
There is, actually.
Oh my god, I haven't eaten yet.
Okay, well, it's there.
Alright.
I'll get you some food as well.
Tell me to sound whiny, it's just I really don't want to be super drunk while doing this show.
No, it's not got like loads in it.
No, I just mean because I haven't had any food, so I...
Yeah, well, I was going to put on food. I've also put on more coffee. But there's no coffee at the moment. So I'd stop juice.
Did you actually put any more spoonfuls in?
I did. I changed the filter.
Oh, you actually did a fresh batch.
I did, yes.
Because you can do 2 from one batch. You just have to
Okay, I
top it
didn't
up.
realise. I was thinking of putting on food, so I'm going to do that now.
Glad you guys knowing about sort of like the intricacies of how to use my coffee machine and just how we operate here at home during one of the most tense parts of the film. That's really what you want to hear about. He's the guy from the gas station who you'd forgotten about. But you hadn't forgotten because they chose a really fucking creepy guy to play him. For me, this is where the film starts to get really disturbing, because she's the only one left and the rest of the movie is just her suffering. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It works. It's very frightening. But from here on out, this is where the film gets really disturbing. To me, at least, as a viewer, where you find yourself just shocked by what you're seeing. Yeah, you thought the film didn't really hold anything else for you, like you've been drawn into it and then you've been sort of compelled, but you think, okay, well, it's not going to get any worse than this, surely. You know, it's just going to be scares at this level now, as films often are. You know, they have a level of scariness and they retain that level, but this is more like a fuse going towards a bomb. You know, it just gets scarier and scarier and scarier and scarier, and then boom. Oh, I bloody love pineapple juice, by the way. I've got some here. It's not just a random tangent.
It is good, isn't it?
I can't taste the gin in this.
It's fine. There's not that much. I told you there's not much in it.
It's just like, well, I don't like that when I can't taste the gin, because I'm like, I'm alright with one, but people keep making me ones where I can't taste the gin. I'll just knock them back. So I love the taste of pineapple juice. It's so sugary. You got a bit of a sweet tooth, so the pineapple juice is really good. Especially as I mentioned earlier, I'm one of those vegetarian types. I can't have gelatin, which is in most kinds of sweets. It is fucking disturbing, and it just pulls in with like a sack.
Mm-hmm. I like how much she screams at her being chased with a broom.
Yeah.
It's like she had a bloody knife.
Oh, she doesn't have a knife now, and the thing is, after everything she's been through, like, she's just freaked out.
I suppose, yeah.
It's coming out with a broom. She doesn't know what he's capable of. I mean, she's just seen a dude murder her brother.
Yeah, very true, I suppose.
Weirdly enough, now all the actual chainsaw massacring is over, as I was saying while you're out of the room, this, to me, is where the film gets really disturbing.
It does.
It just seems to get worse.
The latter half of the film, well, the latter, like, you know, I don't know how long this has got, but the rest
The
of
final
the
act, basically.
The final
yeah.
act is very disturbing. Back a minute.
Disturbing as the film is, it hasn't made me lose my appetite. I'm really excited to eat soon. Wasp. What's this?
It's soup and bread.
Oh, soup. I don't know why. I was expecting pasta, but I really like soup, so I'm happy about that.
It's that sweet potato,
Oh,
chili, and
yeah,
like
girl.
chili and coconut one. There was only a bit left for you, so you're having it.
What are you having?
I'll have food when the film's over.
You're not hungry?
I'm alright just now. I'm not as hungry as you are.
Would you like some of the bread at least?
No, it's okay. But thank you for offering. It was quick.
Now, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a great title for a movie. What do you think is the best title that gets to the point, but specifically of a horror film?
Stupid answer. Nightmares Come at Night.
Nightmares Come at Night. I love that film even exists.
Yeah. Non-stupid answer. Probably something like Alien or
Yeah.
the Thing. Just
The
because
Thing,
it's
yeah.
like
Or Alien. I actually really like Night of the Living Dead
that is a good one.
because everything you need to know. It's going to take place at night, and that the dead have come to life.
Yeah.
It's a nice contradiction, isn't it? Living Dead
Yes.
really gets your attention straight away. So that's my favourite title for a horror movie in terms of effectiveness. Closely followed by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
One thing I like about this is that it's not chainsaw one word, it's chainsaw.
Yeah, that is weird, isn't it? That the chainsaw is two different words.
Chainsaw Massacre, yeah.
Because isn't chainsaw? It is a word, isn't it? Chainsaw
It
on
is,
its
yeah.
own, and yet it is spelled chainsaw as two words. Perhaps both are correct.
You never know. So apparently, Toby Hooper allowed Gunnar Hansen to develop Leatherface as he saw fit under his supervision. So Hansen decided that Leatherface was mentally handicapped and never learned to talk properly. So he went to a school for the mentally handicapped and watched how they moved and listened to them talk to get a feel for the character. And he also tried his best to make his portrayal as politically correct and non-offensive as he could. When many fans, including those who are mentally handicapped, said he succeeded.
I like the idea of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and political correctness ever being kind of the same.
Yeah.
This is one of the most vile movies that that ever got mainstream success.
One thing this kind of reminds me of is the story of Sonny Bean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Those of you who don't know, Sonny Bean had a family that was in actually very close to where I used to live in Scotland, about 20 miles down the road. And apparently he and his family used to live in a cave, and and that's where the inspiration came from, like the Hills of Ice and stuff like that. A very cannibalistic family, and just the way that the particular family in this is just reminds me of the Sonny Bean kind of connection there. If you ever want to look it up, it's a very interesting story.
I thought you were going to talk more about it. You're like, reminds me of Sonny Bean.
Yeah. I didn't want to go into too much detail. If those of you want to know more, look it up. It's on Wikipedia. Or if you want to go to Edinburgh Dungeons, he's in there.
I mean, he himself is not actually at the Edinburgh Dungeons attraction.
No, the attraction is there.
I bet you folks at home are jealous. I've got some bloody lovely soup here.
Glad you
Don't mind the sound. That's just me blowing on the soup.
Here's a funny story about the Edinburgh Dungeon, just if anyone wants to know. When I went there with my family, There's a part in it where you get sentenced by a judge and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my dad was one of the people that get picked, and and his crime was for cross dressing. And he either was like to get hanged or get sent to Wales, where that sort of thing is where that sort of thing is not frowned upon. And with them, it's like, how do you plead? It's like, I will get hanged.
Death or Wales? I choose death.
Yeah, pretty much.
I've never been to Wales. It looks quite pretty but boring from what I've seen.
I haven't been to Wales either. We almost went through it. If we went in the other direction.
That's fucking grim, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's this point where I want to entertain myself because I'm not having any fun with how violent and horrifying this is. I took my son to one of those sort of places like the Edinburgh Dungeons. It was a smuggler's cave somewhere.
Yeah.
And there was this section where they had like all the sentencing of smugglers and things, and they had like hanging bodies and things. It was really disturbing.
Sounds it.
He was really young as well. He was like 4, and I was like, oh fuck, I've made a terrible mistake bringing him here. So I tried to sneak him through that portion of the attraction as quickly as I could. And just like, okay, let's get as little psychological damage here done as possible.
One place that scared me when I was younger was the Jorvik Centre in York, the Viking Centre.
Ah, the Jorvik Centre, yeah, I know the place.
Yeah, just because of I was 7 years old, but then I was the same time I went to that place Terror Tower, which I've told you about in Scarborough.
Well, I've seen Terror Tower, I've seen videos of it.
Don't take your 7-year-old child there.
Completely unsuitable.
My family did. Scarred me for life. This is who I am now.
The fixation on the macabre comes entirely from that.
Pretty much.
So when we did the Eraserhead commentary, we were talking about the grandma sort of sitting in the chair with the doing the salad, and that really reminded me of this film with the sort of like
the puppetry.
Yeah, the sort of decomposing granddad, who is still alive. Like, he just looks dead. You're going to speak because all the audience can hear is with the spoon in my soup bowl.
The thing is, all I'm getting reminded of is that song, the best song in the world. I'm going to have some soup.
It's like 2 soups. It's a really funny line to me.
Yeah.
That's skeleton. Very spook.
Yeah.
It's like, the light bulb on the hand there. This is like some like gross art project.
Yeah.
The true horror of this film is like being on a liberal arts college campus.
I study witchcraft. It's like, no, you don't.
See that from the Addams Family, just like spells and hexes, liberal arts. That's when you realise he's not a corpse. He's like just drinking the blood out of her finger.
Yeah.
Oh, this is still shocking today, this film.
It is.
Considering when it was made. It was 74. And yeah, it's really lost none of its potency.
No.
Do you know what I mean? That's again with the sort of surreal imagery, with the sort of like the zoom out and then the circle and everything like that, and slowly revealing the moon.
I absolutely love zoom. I don't get why people hate it so much.
Because it can be misused, especially by amateurs. But like if you know how to use it, it can look really cool.
But as you said, I remember you saying is that some kind of film students are kind of frightened of using the zoom.
Yeah, they really kind of bully it out of you. Like in the first film I ever made at college, I had 2 zooms in the movie. One of them I think was used really well, and the other one was just kind of like I just did it because it was necessary to go from one shot to the other.
Yeah.
But the other one looked really nice, and oh fucking hell, this is scary. Today's been a day of dinner table scenes because we did Eraserhead as well, which has its own sort of classic disturbing dinner table sequence.
Just cut them up like regular chickens. This is screaming.
Yeah. So like the face on the lamp there and everything. So I mentioned earlier on the commentary there's some stuff that Shadow Man lifted from this movie, and I'm excited for you because you're playing it for the first time. Excited for you to get to those points of the game.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game from what I've seen.
I just thought like the decor in this house. There's a lot of stuff like that later on in the game. Definitely Ed Gein as well as like a big inspiration for one of the characters in that. We talked about that on Psycho. Ed Gein just being one of those figures that people always draw inspiration from for serial killers, in spite of the fact, like you say, he only killed 2 people.
Yeah, I think a lot of that also kind of stemmed from American Psycho as well. Ed Gein was a big influence on that. About this particular scene, I know you haven't really seen much of it. I've only kind of showed you the couple of episodes, but the TV show kind of Supernatural has an episode which is kind of similar to something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's inside a house, and it's just like it's inside one particular house, and it's and there's something there that's and then there's a bit where they're at a dinner table, and there's all these dead people surrounding the dinner table. It is a very it's very disturbing, especially for a television show.
I don't know if I can ever enjoy Supernatural because I hate the fan base so much.
The fan base was what actually put me off it so much, because I started watching it back in like 2008, 2009. And I was really enjoying it, and then the fan base just ruined it for me.
I hate fans of most shows though.
Yeah.
Like the fan base of The Walking Dead the fact that it's about zombies put me off The Walking Dead, but also the fact that the fan base is such cancer really put me off.
Yeah.
These shots, the eyeballs are really, really disturbing, I think. Remind me of
fantastic eyes though.
Remind me of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah, when these like blinking and the colour changes every time he blinks. Those close-ups of the sort of capillaries or whatever they're called, the blood vessels.
Yeah.
The eye.
Yeah, vessels and capillaries. Yeah.
Like how he was having fun with it at first, and now like the dad's like outraged by it.
It shows like a little bit of humanity.
Yeah, which makes it so much worse. Like if they were all just like, yeah, let's have fun and laugh, it'd just be disturbing. But it's like this one guy's like, well, we just got to do it. It's got to be done. But it shouldn't be fun, guys. We just got to kill this girl that we don't know for some reason. It just makes him seem even more psychotic. Like this is a really necessary thing in his eyes. A sort of ultimate dysfunctional family, like the grandfather who everybody loves, who's like the head of the house, so they can barely move, and like the dad who's like gets undermined all the time and things, and just think like it's really, really fucked up.
It is. That lampshade is so disturbing.
Yeah. Good Lord. I can see, like, when I watch scenes like this and I think how fucking clueless the director was trying to make a PG movie.
Yeah. I mean,
This is horrendous.
It is horrific. I mean, you're like, oh yeah, 8-year-olds can go see this.
Yeah, like, oh, well, but you don't really see a lot of blood. I'm like, yeah, but look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a thing called context and a thing called tone, you know?
It's like, there was someone going, Mummy, why is she screaming?
Why won't she stop screaming?
Why won't she stop?
This guy's like so weak he can't even like hold the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I thought we both reacted the same way there. And we've seen it before. I mean, I've seen this film like 5 times. You've only seen it once, but still. Oof. We're just not speaking now. We're just too busy being horrified by what we're looking at. We're just being appalled. Jump through a window again.
Mm-hmm.
Second time in the movie. It's so dark in there that you swear it's nighttime as well.
Mm-hmm.
It looks really early in the morning, though, doesn't it, with like the mist and everything.
Yeah. One thing I've experienced a few times, you know, like traveling in the early, kind of about 4 or 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning, is that mist that just sits on top of things. I hate it because it makes me feel like I'm in the center. I'm in a horror movie.
This is really, really frightening, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, as we edge closer and closer to Halloween, and we're getting scarier and scarier with our film choices.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you really start to watch stuff that is just like macabre and, you know, genuinely quite shocking.
Yeah. Apparently some of the blood that's on her is actually her own.
Really?
The actress's own, because she cut herself so much kind of running through things.
Oh, this guy gets out of the truck and then immediately sees what's happening. He's like, oh shit.
Electrical Beast just uploaded a video.
Oh my god, Electrical Beast uploaded a video. That I'm gonna watch that when we're done with this to kind of wash the. Electrical Beast is like the most pure, innocent person on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna wash all the like horror out of my mind. That's quite slapsticky, isn't it? The wrench to the head.
Ow.
I think this film has a great, and it's coming up, great, potent, powerful ending. The image, you know, is I'm lost for words, but it's coming up in a moment. The way they actually wrap the film up. The character kind of transcends being a character on the screen and becomes an icon. You know, becomes a symbol of horror almost.
Mm-hmm.
She's in hysterics. That's really disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this moment, it's so powerful. With him just spinning the chainsaw around. And then just there's the credits.
Yep.
So, truly disturbing and unique film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love it. Glad to have a new copy of it. Well, not a new, it's second-hand obviously, but another copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
With the little booklet and everything with it. Glad to have it in the collection.
Yeah.
Your second viewing, so your first sort of repeat viewing of The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, What are your thoughts on the film?
More disturbing. Much more disturbing. I don't know why.
I guess you watched it in the middle of the day before, didn't you?
Yeah, well, it wasn't as late as it is now. I mean, it's not too late. I mean, it's it's 11:05. Jesus. I think I watched it maybe about 7 p.m. during the summertime.
Yeah.
Where it was still light. I just saw that he is credited as Leatherface.
Okay, he is called Leatherface in the credits then.
Yeah.
But they don't call him that on screen.
There's actually an actor that plays one of the hitchhiker, or one of the characters, and his name's Ed Gwynn.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Alright, so thanks very much for tuning in to another episode of Shocktober. We'll be back for another scary movie coming at you like Cleopatra. So see you next time.
Bye.
Drinking the gin.